My video presentation, I will be talking about Hurricane Sandy, and more specifically, its environmental history, its formation, and the various environmental consequences that came as a result of the storm. So Hurricane Sandy formed in October 2012 over the Western Caribbean Sea, and it affected coastal communities from the Caribbean all the way along the U.S. East Coast, including New York and New Jersey. It was one of the costliest storms in U.S. history, causing over $70 billion in damages in the U.S. alone, as well as it killed over 200 people worldwide. The storm The reason why the storm caused so much damage is because it became stronger than basically all models predicted it to be, and this was due to various environmental factors, including the moon. It was a full moon during the storm, which basically caused the high tide to be 1 foot higher than it would be otherwise, and also an incoming cold front that collided with the storm strengthened the storm due to geological factors and caused it to become trapped along the coastline. So these factors basically created the perfect storm that caused 8 million people to go without power. Hurricane Sandy had various environmental consequences and after effects, one of these including flood insurance. So the National Flood Insurance Plan was established in 1968 in New York, and it was required for any residences that were located in high-risk flood zones and who had a federally recognized mortgage. And so any houses that met these mandates had to register for the insurance plan. But the problem was that many residences did not actually meet these mandates and therefore did not have to register for the plan. And so basically when Hurricane Sandy hit, the lack of effectiveness in the coverage of the program was exposed, which basically caused an entire overhaul of the system. The system saw stricter mandates put in place, so more residences had to apply for the program, and also saw an increase in insurance rates because of the various risks that came with being located in a flood zone. And so this put many working class families at risk of losing their homes simply because they just could not afford the increased insurance rates. And this basically exposed how we valued the value of homes and their insurance over helping these people respond and recover from this terrible event. Hurricane Sandy not only has impacts when it's formed, but also after it's formed and after it's gone. These storms don't just come and go; they have lasting impacts, and one of these is on mortality rates. So there was a study done that looked at the mortality rates during the 1 and 3 month periods directly preceding the storm, and it saw that all-cause mortality rates increased, and that this is most prevalent among the elderly and those most directly hit by the storm. The mortality rates that were most increased were respiratory infectious diseases and cardiovascular related deaths. And this was consistent with exposure to harmful materials as a result of the damage caused by the storm and the subsequent long-term illnesses and diseases that came as a result of these harmful exposures. And so basically, this shows that the consequences that come from storms like these are very complex. There's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of risk, there's a lot of we don't understand about them. And how we prepare and how we react to these terrible storms is going to directly affect how these unpredictable and uncertain consequences, to what degree they have effects on us. Another lasting impact of Hurricane Sandy was to property and utility disruption. And so Hurricane Sandy had lasting impacts on residential infrastructure. Highly affected areas experienced longer disruption to vital utilities such as water and electricity, but they also experienced longer and harder recovery efforts, and this was disproportionately damaging towards lower education levels. And again, the same point is shown here, where the lasting impacts of storms like these are very complex, and there's a lot of variables, and a lot of risk, and a lot of uncertainty, and how we prepare and how we respond and how we plan for these events is going to directly affect how people recover and how people heal, and how long our communities and how long our infrastructure is disrupted by these events. But Hurricane Sandy does not only affect our communities and our cities, but it also affects natural ecosystems, and as an extension, that affects us as well. And so the Hudson Raritan Estuary, that is located between New York and New Jersey, is a commercial fishing hub for the nearby communities, as well as a natural habitat for lots of fish. And this estuary had basically been undergoing degradation prior to Hurricane Sandy due to the overexploitation of its natural fish resources, so overfishing, was causing the ecosystem to degrade. And so what basically happened is that when Hurricane Sandy hit, it transported over 10 billion gallons of untreated sewage into the estuary, which basically accelerated the already existing degradation of the ecosystem. It degraded the water quality, and it caused vital changes to the structure and the function of the ecosystem. One of these changes was actually a decrease in zooplankton population and an increase in harmful algal bloom populations. Basically changed the entire structure of the ecosystem and degraded the water considerably. So reflections and conclusions that we can draw from this event and its terrible consequences is that it not only affects our communities, but it also affects natural ecosystems. And because we are reliant on these natural ecosystems in our communities, as a extension, it also affects us even more. And not only these effects don't just go away when the storm goes away, these effects are persistent, they are prolonged, and they can stay for very long periods of time, even months after the storm is gone. And so how we prepare, and how we warn, and how we develop plans to react to these various disasters is vital to the safety of not only our communities, uh, our people, but also our ecosystems, and it'll basically affect how we're able to respond and how quickly we can recover from these events. And so what we learn from these kind of responses is going to directly impact how much damage subsequent natural disasters cause and how we react to them. Thank you for listening.